Coming in Facebook, coming in YouTube, getting ready to start my show called Jimmy Rants. Hope you guys are doing well on this Thursday. Got a really good show for you today. And yeah, come on in, make yourselves at home. We've got some good stuff for Jimmy Rants here today. So thank you for being here, Facebook. Thank you for being here, YouTube. And as you can see, I've got my little buddy in the background. I don't think she's ever been there. Hey, Shirley. I don't think she has ever been there. Come on in, you guys. She has ever been there, and now she's leaving. So you got her for like 3 seconds on camera, and then she disappeared. Bye, Chongus. That's my little cat, Peaches. So if you ever see me like rub my nose on camera, no, Skunk is the black one. The orange one is Peaches. Hey, Norma. Hey, David. Hello, Nancy. Come on in, you guys. Thanks for being here. Hello, what is that? RJB from Houston, Texas. Thank you for being here today over on YouTube. So yeah, we're getting ready to start my show, Jimmy Rants, in about 3 minutes. So come on in, make yourselves at home. I mowed my grass yesterday and it was hot as you know what. So that weren't good. So that's just the way it goes. Hello, Thelma. Thank you for being here today. Hello, Amy from, where was that? South Carolina? Are you a fellow South Carolinian? Yep, Amy from South Carolina. Come on in, guys. We're going to start the show here in about 2 minutes. So come on in, make yourselves at home. Hello, Trina. Hello, Tracy. Thank you guys for being here. So yeah, I was out there mowing my grass yesterday, and oh man, like this is a brutal time of year. But the problem is this is the time of year all the grass grows fast. Of course, in the South, it's not the grass that you're mowing. You're throwing things on the ground and making lots of noise, apparently. It's not just the grass growing, it's the weeds. So, yeah, I mowed my weeds yesterday. Fun. So I have one of those green lawn mowers. I haven't put gasoline in a lawnmower in about 4 years. And so it's basically this big lithium battery that you charge on the wall and it powers it. So I use that for my lawnmower, and I also have a weed eater, or 2 weed eaters that use that technology as well as a blower. So yeah, I love it. Everybody's worries about it not having enough power, but it's always plenty of power for me. So yeah, about 2 more minutes, we'll get started on the show. And appreciate you being here. So let's see what's going on. So I do have a podcast out today, which we're going to talk about on today's Jimmy Rants, that talks about protein and the importance of protein in various parts of your health. It's a study that just came out just this month, actually, or I guess it's last month now. This is now July. Hello, Bonnie. Hello, Mitzi. Come on in, you guys. Thanks for being here. And yeah, it is that time, you guys, that we're going to get started with my show, Jimmy Rants. If you hear some noise in the background, I have people who are moving some things out of the house right now. So we're going to let them do that and let their noise happen. I'm going to try to stay focused. Hello, Amy. Thank you for being here. All right, so let's get this show on the road, and here we go. What's the effect of protein and exercise on your body composition? Find out about a brand new study here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, click on that little button down in the corner. Takes you straight to IGTV if you want to watch the full episode. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you need to go follow me over on Instagram. I am at Living Low Carb Man over there. That's LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live in the content, and yeah, we try to do a really good show here, providing cutting-edge information about what's going on in the world of health and in our culture, and like all the things that we do here on Jimmy Rants. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, where I see Mary just popped in. Thank you guys for being here today. And then finally, we're over on my YouTube live stream. So thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live here on Instagram, you can watch it on replay on IGTV. We also put the past episodes up over on YouTube. So type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. Then finally, you can find the show over at the official website for this show at jimmyrants.com. And if you get value out of the things that I share here, I try to add value to your life. So if you see that and you appreciate that and you want to throw value back at me, click on that Patreon link, and really a donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. Okay, you guys, so before I get into today's study, because I have a new study to share with you guys that's pretty interesting, I want to tell you about an ancillary thing that's going on today, because the study's about protein, and it just so happens that today on my podcast called Real Talk, Dr. Will Cole is taking some time away, so my first guest co-host on that show, I invited Dr. Ted Naiman on. So if you know Ted, he is big into protein and its importance in your health. And he's all the time been talking about the benefits of it. And so I said, hey, Ted, why don't we do a protein cast where we kind of go over the various benefits. He has a brand new book out called The PE Diet. And so it talks about how you balance protein and energy. And so go listen to that today over at llvlc.com. It will be up there very soon. And then wherever you listen to podcasts, it'll be out there. We also have it as a Jimmy Rants bonus episode. So if you'd like to see, I'm doing a lot of video interviews right here in Jimmy Rants Studio. And so that one is currently up as a bonus episode over on YouTube. So go check that out, you guys, if you want to see that episode about protein from Dr. Ted Naiman. Great interview. But speaking of protein, I have a brand new study that just came out. It was published in the journal called Nutrients. It looks like it came out last month, June of 2020. And the title of it is Effects of Dietary Protein on Body Composition in Exercising Individuals. And so we've known for a very long time that people who engage in exercise get benefit out of adding in protein into their diet. They really haven't talked about too much of the body composition changes that happen as a result of that. And so now we have a study that looked at that very thing. So the researchers, there's a whole bunch of researchers here. It looks like the lead researcher is Jose Antonio, and he's out of Nova Southeastern University in Florida. Darren Kandal is a kinesiologist out of Saskatchewan, Canada. Scott Forbes is a physical education educator at Brandon University in Manitoba. Michael Ormsby, looks like he is from the Institute of Sports Science and Medicine at Florida State. He also has a University of KwaZulu-Natal in Durban, South Africa. And then the last one is Justin Roberts is from the Cambridge Center for Sports and Exercise Science in Cambridge in the UK. So pretty prestigious panel of researchers that are out there doing their thing. So let's take a look at the abstract. Protein is an important component of a healthy diet and appears to be integral in enhancing training adaptations in exercising individuals. The purpose of this review is to provide an evidence-based assessment of all the current literature, examining all the increases in dietary protein that are above the recommended daily allowance. So the current RDA, they note here, is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram. In conjunction with chronic exercise on your body composition. So they specifically wanted to look at muscle, fat, and bone. We also highlight acute and chronic pre-sleep protein studies, as well as the influence of exercise timing on body composition. Overall, a high protein diet, they say, and again, this is the abstract, appears to increase muscle accretion and fat loss, and may have beneficial effects on bone when combined with exercise. Pre-sleep protein is a viable strategy to help achieve daily protein goals. Importantly, there appears to be no deleterious effects from consuming a high protein diet on your muscle, your fat or your bone in people who are exercising. So they take a look at a lot of the data that's already out there, and they try to come to an assessment. So this is what's called an observational study. So they're looking at various studies, and based on all these various studies, they're trying to come to some conclusions about what they mean. Okay, it's not the best study in the world. The best study would be a randomized controlled trial of this, but this is probably one of the better kinds of studies. So again, if you joined us late, I am reading from a brand new study just published in the journal Nutrients in June of 2020. And the title of it, Effects of Dietary Protein on Body Composition in Exercising Individuals. And I just thought it was really cool to see protein getting a positiveness out there. And I don't know how much of this is getting in the mainstream of health news, but we're definitely going to address it here today on Jimmy Rants. Okay, so let's read the introduction. Protein is an important component of a healthy diet. It's essential for growth and development. Inadequate dietary protein, even with adequate calories, will result in malnutrition. This is something Dr. Naiman talked about in our interview. And again, if you joined us late, I've got a great protein-centered episode of my show called Real Talk. It's airing today, llvlc.com or wherever podcasts are heard. And also over on YouTube, it's a Jimmy Rants bonus episode. You can hear us talking all about protein. But he wrote a book called PE Diet, the PE Diet. And P stands for protein, E stands for energy. And he's talking about balancing between having an adequate amount of protein, but not to the level that you're getting excessive energy. And so what they're saying here, even with having adequate calories, if you don't get enough protein, you'll actually be malnourished. And people don't think about that. That's why so many people can eat crappy garbage, and their body keeps going, wait, where's the protein? Wait, give me protein. And so the body's screaming for more protein. And so you overconsume all this other stuff just to try to get close to the protein requirements that your body needs. And this happens quite a bit. Beyond health, dietary protein intake appears to be integral for exercising individuals. And I would think the two go hand in hand. If you're going to consume more protein, you should be exercising more. If you're going to exercise more, you should be consuming more protein. Now, the argument could be made, well, I don't want to exercise, so then what do I do with protein? And at that point, I think you've got to come to a realization that regardless of what you think about exercise, movement should be a part of your regular daily life. Despite scientific inquiry, it has only become increasingly evident in recent decades that protein requirements are elevated above the recommended daily allowance. In other words, we need to increase how much protein we're consuming. These greater dietary protein needs may be associated with exercise-induced mitochondrial biogenesis, protein synthesis, and endocrine and immune responses. Ooh, in the era of COVID-19, did I get your attention? Talking about it could be impacting your immune response when you undereat protein? It's true. The purpose of this narrative review is to examine the efficacy and safety of increasing dietary protein in trained individuals, as well as the acute and chronic effects of pre-sleep protein on body composition. Lastly, we evaluate the current scientific literature pertaining to increasing your protein intake on your bones. So you guys ready for this? This is really good stuff. Dietary protein and body composition in trained individuals. For individuals who exercise regularly, the current body of evidence supports dietary protein needs 1.5 to 2.0 fold higher than the RDA of 0.8 grams per kilogram. It is important to note that these elevated dietary protein requirements and recommendations are for individuals specifically performing chronic exercise for more than 3 months. So again, the caveat is the increased protein is in the context of an exercising individual. And again, people will come up with excuses. Well, I don't want to exercise, so now how much protein? Obviously, if you choose not to exercise at all, your protein requirement's going to be less. But then it begs the question, if you're going to eat protein at all, don't you want it to work its best in your body? And if the answer to that is yes, which I would hope most of you would say yes, then at least you need to put some movement in your body to best utilize that protein. We previously demonstrated and seen an increased protein requirement in other studies based on a negative shift in whole body nitrogen balance in participants initiating an exercise training program, and they consume a constant protein intake of 1 gram per kilogram. As such, the primary emphasis of this section will be on all the studies examining dietary protein needs for chronic exercising individuals. Anyone who is sedentary, unhealthy, or inactive performing short-term training, which is defined here as less than 3 months, will not be discussed. So they didn't even look at any studies that looked at non-exercising people. For clinical trials discussing sedentary populations, they give some references in this study if you wanted to take a look at that. High protein diets may assist with fat mass reduction through a variety of mechanisms, including enhanced resting and sleeping energy expenditure, elevated activity-related energy expenditure, increases in non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and a greater thermic effect of feeding relative to other macros. So let's unpack that a little bit. So they help basically cut fat mass, which is stored body fat. And it says the mechanism by which it helps to release stored body fat is it enhances sleeping energy expenditure. In other words, when you consume more protein and then you're able to exercise in conjunction with that, it does something to help with your sleep so that it revs up the energy that you burn while you're sleeping. Now that's a pretty cool effect. Like, I think the goal we're all trying to have is, okay, how can I make my body burn more so that perhaps I could eat more? Some people complain, especially on the ketogenic diet. I don't feel like I'm eating very much and I can't eat very much. Well, I wonder if combining increasing your protein with exercise would then allow your body to burn more when you're not exercising and when you're not even awake. That would be really, really cool. Elevated activity-related energy expenditure, meaning when you consume enough protein in conjunction with exercise, you get elevated activity-related energy expenditure. In other words, you spend more energy. And that would make sense as well, that if you spend more energy, then it allows you to consume more energy, and thus the higher protein does not result in anything but fat loss because you're increasing your energy expenditure. Increases in non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is a fun one here. So eating higher protein, again, in conjunction with the exercise, increases non-exercise activity thermogenesis. In other words, I could be sitting here doing a Jimmy Rants and it's burning fat. I think we're all trying to get to that point, right? Where our bodies have become such a well-oiled fat-burning machine. And the thing that helps to get you there is this combo of protein and exercise. This is pretty fascinating, right? And then the last one, a greater thermic effect of feeding relative to other macronutrients. So when you eat more protein, you get a better effect, fat burning effect from that. All really cool stuff. Furthermore, it is well known that protein feeding acutely elevates muscle protein synthesis post-exercise, which in theory should result in greater muscle protein accretion over time. However, caution is required when extrapolating these snapshot findings to whole body adaptations. In addition, it is important to note that these acute feeding studies are rigorously controlled. They're usually performed in a fasted state and a single protein-only dose so that they can enhance internal validity. However, the generalization, the external validity of these studies in free-living humans consuming mixed meals multiple times a day may be limited. As such, longitudinal controlled trials may be the best ideal methodology to determine whether protein doses above the RDA can affect body composition. When I talked to Ted in our interview that we did, again, airing today on Real Talk, that was one of the things that he talked about, was a lot of these nutritional studies that are out there looking at protein, carbs, and fat. Generally, protein stays constant, right at that 15 to 20% of your total calories in every diet group. He said if they boosted the protein content significantly higher, upwards of 40 to 50% of your calories, he said it would blow everything else out of the water. And I asked him, have they done those studies? He's like, oh yeah, those studies are out there. And mostly it's bodybuilders that have figured these things out. And so we need to see more of that. I mean, if this is kind of a secret to unlocking a lot of this ability of the body to burn its own fat, then I think we need to see more of that in the research. So they looked at the effects of a 10-week resistance training program in conjunction with whey protein supplementation on body composition, muscular strength, and muscular endurance, as well as anaerobic capacity. And so they go through this study and they go down through that. They said the males experienced similar changes in body composition as the females. So this isn't something that only works for the guys and not for the girls. So I thought that was interesting. Females in the groups improved their lean body mass. They were able to accomplish a 1 repetition max bench press and hip sled strength. They also had a greater reduction in fat mass as compared to the control group. Really fascinating. Other series of studies examined the impact of high protein diets with and without alterations in their habitual training. They looked at, looks like 30 males and females, where they fed them 4.4 grams per kilogram. That's a lot of protein for 8 weeks, and reported no changes at all in their body mass, muscle, or fat mass. Participants were instructed to not change their habitual training. So in other words, they kept their same training routine even though they jacked up their protein intake. The follow-up study assessed a high-protein diet, which was defined as 3.4 grams per kilogram, in conjunction with a periodized heavy resistance training program. And participants in the control and high-protein groups were both instructed to consume more than 2 but less than 3 grams per kilogram of dietary protein, respectively. And despite the high-protein group consuming more calories, almost 500 more calories, they had a greater decrease in their fat mass. So they lost more weight, specifically fat weight, on their bodies than the control group, and they ate massively higher protein. On the other hand, the high protein group and the control groups gained a similar amount of lean body mass. This is another kind of misnotion as well that's been put out there. Well, if you are building muscle, you can't burn fat. Well, this study here is saying, hey, look, you can do both simultaneously, because they lost 1.6 kilo, which is somewhere around 4 to 5 pounds of body fat, but then they gained 1.5 kilo of muscle, which is somewhere around 3 pounds of muscle. So that's pretty amazing. Furthermore, there was no deleterious effects reported in either group, so they had no side effects from doing this. Fascinating, right? All right, let's see what else they have here. They took a look at a few more studies, but I think you get the idea. Most of these studies they examined, the more protein that they consumed, and we're talking significant, like generally we're talking about 1 to 1.5 at the most grams per kilogram of body weight for a ketogenic dieter, for example. And they're talking about pushing it to as high as 3, and in some of these studies over 4 grams per kilogram. And they're seeing lower body fat and more muscle. And I'm not trying to push anybody off of their moderation of protein with this. I'm just giving this as an example of perhaps we need to take a closer look at the good things that protein can do and see how you respond. There have been several studies showing no benefit from having a higher protein intake. In novice bodybuilders engaged in their initial stages of training, a high protein intake of 2.62 grams per kilogram compared to 1.35 grams per kilogram did not alter muscle mass or their strength gains over 3.5 weeks. They found no effect from either one of the groups that was 2.6 grams per kilogram or 3.3 grams per kilogram of protein during resistance training on their body composition. And again, this is in resistance trained young people, young men. A randomized trial of 21 resistance trained males. They put them either a protein of 94 grams per day plus carbs of 196 grams per day, or carb alone for 56 days, and found no difference between the two groups in their body composition. In a cross-sectional study, collegiate power athletes performed 12 weeks of resistance training in which they stratified into 3 groups based on their daily protein intake. One group had 1 to 1.4 kilos per gram, grams per kilogram, sorry. Another one went 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilogram, and then all the rest of them went well above 2.0. There were no changes in body mass, lean body mass, or fat mass in any group. Similar improvements were found in the bench press and squats between the groups. Collectively, there appears to be a small but beneficial effect of those who consumed a high protein intake over 2 grams per kilo on lean body mass and in trained individuals. This is in agreement with a recent systematic meta-analysis that looked at data from 49 different studies, and they found that protein supplementation significantly increased the free fat mass as well as muscle fiber cross-sectional area. This is so cool, man. Conversely, there's limited data to suggest that protein supplementation may promote a loss of fat mass. Thus, the pragmatic approach regarding dietary protein recommendations should err on the side of a higher intake of protein, which they now in this study say at least twice as much as the RDA is recommending, and maybe even higher. So the RDA is currently 0.8 grams per kilo. So if you double that, that's 1.6 grams per kilo, and they're saying perhaps much higher. I'm wondering if it's worthy of an experiment in the keto world where we push protein a little bit higher. And again, all of this, you guys, don't mishear this. All of this is in the context of being a voracious exerciser. And so this is key. Protein plus exercise, resistance exercise, equals loss of body fat and increase in muscle mass. How about that pre-sleep protein? Let's take a look at that. In trained individuals, consuming low-energy, protein-centric food items prior to sleep provides them an opportunity to increase their energy intake, support the muscle repair process, and provide an additional time to achieve your daily protein goals. So they say take some protein before you go to bed, which ironically, just last night, I got me a rotisserie chicken around 6:30. It was right after I got done mowing the grass. I did a Jimmy Ranch last night, and then I got a rotisserie chicken. And of course, rotisserie has lots of protein, minimal fat. The darker pieces had fat, but I consumed that. And then I went to sleep somewhere around an hour and a half after consuming that. And so they say that it helps to increase your energy intake. So in other words, if you're kind of low in calories for the day, it helps you get there. It also helps you hit your protein goal, which is really cool. And then supporting muscle repair. And quite frankly, I have not been able to exercise as regularly as I'd like, but I've noticed that my muscle has stayed very stable despite not getting to exercise near to the level that I want to. I'm going to gear that back up here very soon, but I have noticed that since I've kind of put some focus more on protein more recently, that my muscle mass has been preserved. And of course, we know ketones have a a muscle sparing effect, so you're able to keep your muscle even if you're not actively exercising it. So that's another good reason to kind of find that balance within keto that keeps you in ketosis and yet enough protein that you're not kicked out of ketosis. It's a fascinating balance that you can do. All right, so acute dosing. Multiple studies indicate that pre-sleep protein meals have either a beneficial or no significant impact on your overnight metabolism without altering your fat oxidation. It's been observed in a proof of concept study that pre-sleep dietary protein is well digested and absorbed, resulting in an increased overnight net protein balance, especially in elderly adults. Follow-up studies in younger populations provided further support, and they go on and on and on about how during sleep having protein before you go to sleep actually can help with some of this stuff. I don't want to get bogged down on that too much. Long term, while most studies have shown benefits with sufficient doses of pre-sleep protein alone and in conjunction with exercising in the evening, fewer studies exist for chronic pre-sleep protein consumption with mixed results. They said here that a pre-sleep protein of 27.5 grams of casein along with 15 grams of carbohydrate in a beverage led to greater muscle strength gains, about 10% increase in quadricep cross-sectional area compared to about a 6% increase in the non-caloric placebo. In other words, taking the protein right before bed with this little bit of carbohydrate actually boosted quadricep muscle development. That was pretty cool. All right, I'm going to skip that one and go on to exercise timing. Investigators have shown benefits of pre-sleep protein on muscle recovery following exercising in the evening. And so they go over some of the studies. I can tell you from personal experience, I don't do well exercising in the evening. And I find that it revs me up too much. And that it takes me a while for that adrenaline to kind of like calm down so then I can sleep. So yesterday I mowed my grass, and I know that's not big exercise, but I did mow my grass. What was it, about 4 o'clock I was mowing my grass. And so yeah, I had plenty of time before I went to sleep to calm down. But what if I mowed my grass at say 7:30 and then tried to go to bed at say 8:30? I wouldn't have been able to do it. So I know I'm not alone in that, by the way. All right. Pre-sleep protein seems to improve recovery from late evening exercise. There does not seem to be a benefit on the next day exercise performance. So you might think, okay, it helps you recover better. It does not, is what they're saying. All right, so let's move on to protein and bone in young exercising individuals. It's well established that an increase in habitual dietary protein, including supplemental protein above the dietary recommendations, has a beneficial effect on muscle mass and muscle performance. However, the potential beneficial effects of increased protein on bone are less clear. Proteins comprise about 30 to 50% of your bone mass and volume. Did you know that? Did you know your bone mass, a third to half of it is pretty much protein? I didn't know that. May play a crucial role in bone accretion and bone strength over time. In summarizing several of the meta-analyses and review articles, they concluded that increasing dietary protein intake was associated with an increase in bone mineral density and a reduction in hip fracture risk. I will tell you, as I get older, that's what I want to avoid. I want to avoid any kind of fractures, any kind of anything. And everybody likes to put the focus on like calcium and trying to increase that. No. Looks like protein is the key here. While the mechanisms explaining the potential benefits of exercise or benefits of protein on bone remain to be determined, protein influences calcium kinetics, growth factors, and hormones, as well as your muscle mass. Increasing protein consumption typically will increase calcium excretion due to an improved intestinal calcium absorption, but has no negative effect on calcium homeostasis. In other words, protein kind of activates this internal mechanism that improves how your body takes calcium and puts it where it needs to be, including your bones. An increase in calcium absorption would theoretically decrease the parathyroid hormone secretion, which would subsequently increase blood calcium levels and have a favorable effect on net bone accrual by suppressing bone expression, leading to a positive effect of osteoblast differentiation. That's a little bit of like gobbledygook in the weeds. I don't want to go over people's heads here, but the point is it does good things to bone health. In addition to calcium kinetics, protein will augment insulin like growth factor 1, a growth factor highly involved in bone growth. It increases the release of incretin hormones, which can have an anabolic effect on bone mass and bone strength. Furthermore, it is well established that dietary protein ingestion increases the rate of muscle protein synthesis, which could lead to greater muscle accretion over time, and greater muscle mass may increase mechanical strain on bone at their tendon attachment sites, leading to a net bone accretion over time. All right, so the vast majority of research investigating the effects of dietary protein on properties of bone have focused on older people and people in a disease state. Very limited research exists about younger exercising individuals. This focus area is important because exercising individuals are at a greater risk of developing and acquiring a stress fracture because of the movement that they do. And it's possibly due to an imbalance between bone resorption and bone formulation caused by prolonged high-intensity exercise, which goes back to reminding you that this is all a balance. Yes, you want to have protein. Yes, you want to exercise, but you don't want to go too excessive in one direction or the other. You overtrain, you could undo the benefits that protein has given you and that exercise is giving you, and vice versa. If you train but don't give yourself enough protein, you can again cause issues. Strategies which can increase bone mass and strength and subsequently decrease the prevalence of fractures are important for people who are exercising. All right, so I don't want to go through the rest of that because we're pretty heavy into this, but collectively limited research indicates that protein supplementation can positively influence bone turnover and regional bone mineral in some exercising individuals. Increasing habitual dietary protein intake above the daily recommended allowance of 0.8 grams per kilogram has no deleterious effects on bone in exercising individuals. We need further research to investigate the long-term effects of dietary protein with and without exercise training on bone mineral strength and geometric measures in exercising individuals. The main thing there, guys, is if consuming protein and its relationship to bone health was not on your radar screen before, I hope this study now puts it on your radar screen that protein isn't about just muscle building. Protein is also about bone building. And as you age, as you get older, bone health is going to become huge. Yes, muscle health is important as well, and you want to try to have as much lean muscle mass on your body as possible. But bone strength and bone agility and bone creation, that's pretty important too. And protein is at the center of that. All right, the conclusion in the study, it's evident that total protein intake is an important factor for any alteration in your body composition. Based on all the current evidence, protein intakes that far exceed the RDA may actually promote additional gains in lean body mass as well as a decrement in your fat mass. However, in order to achieve a gain in lean body mass or loss of fat mass, this is best achieved when you complement it with a rigorous resistance training program. The role of pre-sleep protein feedings is not understood. Nonetheless, pre-sleep feedings may be beneficial to athletes in as much as it contributes to their total daily protein intake. In other words, if they didn't need enough protein during the day, getting a little bit before bedtime helps them meet that need for the day. To date, higher protein intakes tend to have a neutral effect on your bone mineral density. However, there is evidence to suggest that it can actually have a positive one as well. So that's it, you guys. Pretty cool little study. Let's see if there's any conflicts of interest. Uh, let's see, the main researcher, what's his name? Michael Ormsby. Looks like he serves on the Dynamic Scientific Advisory Board, a company that sells creatine in its supplement portfolio. It was not referred to in this study at all. They didn't even talk about creatine, but he did disclose that. Looks like Jose Antonio is the CEO and co-founder of the ISSN, which is supported in part by grants from raw goods suppliers and branded companies that sell dietary protein supplementation. And then all the other authors in the study had no conflicts of interest. So guys, this is available right now if you want to go look it up. People always ask me when I talk about a study, can you give us that study again? Yeah, I can. It's in the journal Nutrients, and it's from June 2020. And the title of it is Effects of Dietary Protein on Body Composition in Exercising Individuals. And it's by Antonio et al. So go check that out. I thought this was so good. And, you know, I know in the keto space over the past few years, there's been quite a bit of controversy over should it be a high fat diet or should it be a higher protein diet. And even in my conversation, and again, for those of you that came in late, I interviewed a protein expert on Real Talk today. He and I had a nice chat, Dr. Ted Naiman and I, talking about his new book called The PE Diet. And he pretty much said, hey, look, you really can't overdo it on the protein. And his recommendation is to try to get a 2 grams of protein for every 1 gram of non-protein that you consume. So non-proteins, obviously fat and or carb mix. So obviously if you limit your carbohydrate, that means about a 2 grams of protein for every 1 gram of fat. And people are like, oh my God, that's like ungodly high protein. But think about it. Fat is 9 calories per gram, right? And so if fat is 9 calories per gram and carbohydrate and protein is only 4, if you do a 2-to-1 ratio of fat to protein, it's still a high fat diet. Somewhere around 55 to 60% diet. So it's not like it's such a draconian, oh my God, how could you ever? No. And I'm becoming more and more convinced that dietary protein is a lot more valuable than we ever imagined it to be. And of course, Ted's been talking about this for years, you guys. And I give him a lot of props, a lot of kudos, because he was way ahead of the curve on understanding exactly what they were talking about in this study. Now, I get it. There's some people that have the concerns about, well, what if consuming a lot of protein starts to give me trouble in my blood sugar? And I've talked about it for me, and even on our interview today, listen to the recent experiment that I did where I ate a pound of chicken breast. I wanted to see what would happen, and I got a hypoglycemic effect from it. Ted still does not understand why that happened to me. I'm sure there's some mechanism within my messed up body that made that happen. But what I find is if I can mix that protein, large amount of protein, with just enough fat to prevent that from happening, prevent that kind of hypoglycemia from happening, then you find your sweet spot. And I think Ted's point is, and I agree with him, get enough protein first, then add enough non-protein energy to it so that you get all the benefits out of it. And so that might mean that you have 100 grams of protein and 50 grams, I'm just making up numbers, and 50 grams of fat in a meal, and then that's what you consume. Pretty interesting. And then the first benefit that you get from protein, according to Ted, is the satiety benefits. And he agreed that it was the mix between fat and protein. And of course, we all come at this from different metabolisms. Some people may need to bump up the fat just slightly. Others need to bump down the fat. And so that's what makes it hard, is I can't tell you this is how much protein to consume. This is how much fat to consume. I can't tell you what those verifiable numbers are because they're not the same from person to person. which is why you need to tinker and test and figure it out. But it does look like if you're going to consume protein in these amounts that they talked about in this study, you really do need to add in the exercise component, and specifically the resistance exercise component. All right, I'm dying to see what you guys have to say about this study. So we're gonna go over here first to my Instagram page, then over to Facebook, finally over to YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. All right, jimmyrants.com is the website as always, you guys. Thanks for being here. Cassia says hello from Scotland. Thank you for being here from Scotland. 2fixmj says, my friends, protein and fat, know that I love them both equally. Carbohydrate is merely an acquaintance. I love that. That is very well said, my friend. I love that. Chris says, I love this topic. Thanks for bringing it into light. I'm in keto and upping my protein a la Ted Naiman recommendations. I'm losing body fat and gaining lean mass. 3 months and I have full energy. That's awesome. Also, high intensity interval training, cardio plus resistance training. Yes. Can you share the study later? So yeah, I told you where the study's from. Again, Nutrients, June of 2020, effects of dietary protein on body composition in exercising individuals. Rachel says, when we yak about kilograms, we're talking about lean body mass. Right, yes, lean, yes, thank you. Yeah, so lean body mass would, right. So that does not include the fat mass. And that's another one, Rachel, that when you talk about grams per kilogram, you can get kind of confusing there, because some people go grams of kilograms of total body weight, and then others say grams of kilograms of lean mass. I'm almost sure it should be lean mass, not your total body weight. But thank you for that clarification. Chris wants to know, does excess protein kick me out of ketosis on a keto diet under 20 grams of net carbs through gluconeogenesis? So this is another point of contention in the keto community over these past few years. I think it depends on the person. I think some people are going to have a little more trouble with that than others. But again, I think it might be a little bit overblown to think that if you consume higher protein that you're automatically going to create this gluconeogenetic effect. I think it does impact some people, but the vast majority of people, your body's going to tell you to stop when you've had enough protein. And again, with the right amount of fat in there as well. Kat says muscle growth happens from metabolic change through damage from exercise and hormonal changes from exercise, but exercise has to be work and not just being active like walking. Protein is often overrated. Yeah, you're right. You can't read a magazine on a treadmill and think that you're exercising. If you're not breathing heavy, if you're not sweating profusely, if you're not feeling it in all the muscles of your body, you didn't do it right. Those of you that are longtime Jimmy Rants fans, you know that out in my side yard over here, I've got a big old tractor tire. And when I flip that bad boy, I'm breathing hard, I'm sweating hard. It's tough, tough, tough work. And I do that in about like a 12 to 15 minute process of flipping it back and forth and recovering and then flipping it and recovering. In fact, I may need to do that here again soon. Although right now it's so ungodly hot out there. I don't know if I want to put my body through that. But yeah, you're right, Kat. Thank you for that. If the extra protein goes to repair the workout damage, or unless it does, it's a total waste. Exactly. That's why they're saying that if you're going to exercise, or you're going to eat more protein, you got to exercise. They kind of go hand in hand. Chris says Ted Naiman on an interview said that it's very difficult for the protein overfeeding to be stored as body fat. I'm starting to lose my fear of eating more calories of protein. Yeah, I think we need to get over the concept of protein necessarily being a body fat storer. I'm not real sure where that comes from. We obviously know that carbohydrate can be a body fat storer when consumed in excess. Duh. I think we need to come to terms with when you consume way beyond satiety, your level of fat as well. that we have to be very concerned with. Overconsumption of fat can actually lead to stored body fat as well. And of course, the mechanism for that is overconsumption of energy. And, you know, keto people are often criticized. Well, you're just all a bunch of gluttons eating sticks of butter and all this kind of stuff. And I don't think anybody's trying to say that that's what everybody is doing. I think we need to be very careful about what we say regarding protein, because I do think protein could be an effective way to leverage. And again, all in the context, again, in this study, it was all in the context of being a resistance training athlete. So keep that in mind. Thank you, Instagram. Let me pop over here to my YouTube channel, or Facebook channel, then YouTube. See what you guys have to say on this one. Welcome in, welcome in. All right, very interesting, says Robert. It is. Margie says, would you provide the link to the research? So I can't give you a link while I'm actively doing the Jimmy Rants, but it's in the journal called Nutrients. That's the name of the journal. And it was in the June 2020 edition. Effects of dietary protein on body composition in exercising individuals. Do a simple Google search of that title, Effects of Dietary Protein on Body Composition in Exercising Individuals. Look for Nutrients. And then again, it was published in June of 2020. Tracy says the high protein and high fat works best on my body. Yeah, I mean, I think you find what works for you, and that's always been my mantra. For some people, that's going to be a little more protein. For some people, that's going to be a little more fat. And I don't think we need to like vilify either one of those things. If someone gets more benefit out of adding more protein in their body, why do I care? If somebody gets more benefit of adding more fat in their diet and they get great, you know, metabolic health markers from it, why should I care? I don't, by the way. I want people to find what works for them. Margie says, excellent information. Dr. Gabrielle Lyons has been saying this for a little while. Yes, she's definitely been out there. And like I said, Ted's been out there banging this drum for a little while as well. I am in the process of making a delicious steak, says Robert. Well, save me one, brother. Thank you, Facebook. Let me pop over here to my YouTube channel. Wow, look at all you people on YouTube today. Thank you for being here, guys. What are your thoughts on setting protein, Craig wants to know, as your main daily goal, and then using fat as a lever for reducing or reaching satiety, and carbohydrate is a limit? Yeah, I think that is what we're trying to do here. I think we're trying to get people to understand that protein is pretty much the focus of what you need to be trying to get in on a daily basis. I've got a friend right now that doesn't eat very much protein, and they're always hungry, and they're always struggling, and they're always trying to figure out, oh my God, what do I eat? Protein. And if you ate protein and did it as the primary source of nutrition, and then yes, added just enough fat to feel all the satiety and the energy needs that you have, I think that's what you're trying to do. Calories don't count. The OMAD outlaw. Fat and protein are the way to go, says Don. Yes. Yes, Don. All right. And I hate the way they make you scroll on YouTube trying to find the comments. Because if you let go, it goes away, and I have to scroll back to the top. That's what I just did. So nobody's been able to exercise as they like to. We're all running from COVID-19. A lot of stuff is closed. Yeah. They closed my gym, and I actually had to end up canceling the membership because of some financial stuff. It is giving me a hard time, guys. Work with me. I prefer to exercise in the morning, says PJB. Yeah, me too. I go at midday. Traffic isn't as rough. I get extra vitamin D. Sleep better at night. Oh, talking about going to the gym. Edith says ketogenic dieting and carnivore are the great miracles. I'd be dead right now had I not gone to them. Harpsy says new nutritional info. Low carb individuals again at the top of the positive health curve always. Keep preaching the truth. If you fear protein, then think of those grams as carbs instead. Exercise as though your protein grams were carbs. Interesting. This is frustrating trying to scroll, especially when I got so many great comments. I'm trying to get to them all, guys. Hello from Finland. Thanks for being here. I'm eating a king strip steak as you speak, says PJB. Excellent. I envy you steak people. I'm a cheap ground beef, eggs, and beefy broad myself. She called herself a broad. I did not say that. One day when I get the money, I'll go on a steak spree, says Edith. So, yeah, so I think we're all seeing the value in adding in the protein. And definitely this study helped to underscore that a little more. All right, let's come back over here one last time to my Instagram family. I already got over it, says Cassia, talking about the fear of protein. I have no fear of either protein or fat. And I think that's a healthy way to look at this. Like, let's just embrace real food. And if you're embracing real food, I think your body does just fine knowing what to do with that food. Happens to be a little more protein than you're used to eating, so be it. Feel. And again, since I have increased protein slightly, just to kind of see how this would be, I feel stronger despite not getting to regularly work out. I can feel, and I can even see, like, muscle growth that I had before has not gone away. So I know when I start lifting again, I will have not lost any strength or minimal strength. So that's kind of cool. All right, Lokan, that is a general question, and I answer general questions on my Ask Me Anything on Friday. So ask that tomorrow, and I'll be happy to answer it. Chris says, so we should worry getting a minimum of protein. Ted says 120 grams per day is a good number. He's not worried about the max limit. Very difficult to overeat protein. Yeah, I think if you're going to start upping your protein, I mean, I don't want to quantify it with any specific number because you've got 90-pound people and you've got 400-pound people, and I don't think they need to be eating the same amount. But I think if you want to try 120 grams of protein, there's definitely not going to be anything that harms you. Even when I was doing my most protein moderated type of diet, I was still getting about 90 to 100 grams of protein a day. So 120 would be a low one for me. I'm thinking for me, what I currently eat is somewhere around 180 to 200 grams of protein. And I do good with that. And I feel good with that. I haven't noticed great fat loss. Of course, the mitigating factor right now is COVID-19 and all the stress and everything going on. And I've got some things in my personal life that are incredibly stressful right now. So it's not a fair comparison to say, well, I ate this higher protein, but I didn't see any fat mass loss. I'm not putting that on the protein. When life calms down, I'll be able to really quantify that a little bit better. Even eating a lot of protein, my body craves the energy of fats. Like you said, a little bit of healthy fat does the trick. And I asked Ted about that. I said, so if you eat protein and you eat it in its natural state with all the fats that come with it, that's probably ideal. And he said, yeah, that generally is going to be about a 2-to-1 ratio of grams of protein for gram of fat. And it's still a high fat meal. We have to remind ourselves that because of the 9 calories per gram of fat, the 4 calories per gram of protein, a 2 gram of protein to 1 gram of fat is still a high fat diet. So I think that phrase high fat diet freaks people out because they think that they're gorging on fat. Oh my gosh, a high fat diet, and it's not that at all. So maybe that terminology has made people swing in the direction thinking they need to up their fat. No, the natural fats that come in the protein are going to make it a high fat diet, and then you put the focus on the protein. So again, if you joined us late, I read from a study, you guys, published in the journal Nutrients in June of 2020, effects of dietary protein on body composition in exercising individuals, and it finds protein and exercise are the key to body composition change, to bone density, and making sure your bones stay strong, to pre-sleep protein helping you build muscle, and some of the other benefits. It's just really, really fascinating what we know about protein. Aaron says, you're my first keto podcast, totally got me hopping down the rabbit hole. So appreciate your passion and information. Well, thank you. I try to provide good information because quite frankly, when I first started, I didn't have anybody teaching me this stuff. I read Dr. Atkins's book, and that was it. Now, I was pretty much on my own after that, and that was way back in 2004. Yeah, 2004. Sorry, it's so many years have passed since I was on the Atkins diet, but I'm glad the internet is what it is now, that we can disseminate this information and make it fun and educational at the same time. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me right here on Instagram. I am at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live, just like all these amazing people did here today. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page as well as over on the YouTube stream. So thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay right here on IGTV. I'll get it up soon after the show is over, so you can watch it there on replay. You can also watch it on replay over on YouTube. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you'll find the show, or youtube.com/livinglowcarbman. And don't forget, over on YouTube today, I have that Jimmy Rants bonus episode of my interview with Dr. Naiman. If you want to watch the two of us, Ted came on the screen, and we recorded at like 9 o'clock in the morning. He came on the screen, and he had like a little tank top shirt on, kind of showing his pecs a little bit. I'm like, wow, you trying to show me up here today, too? But we had a great conversation. He and I have been friends for many years, and if you don't want to watch it, you can listen to it on the Real Talk podcast, LLVLC.com. It airs today. And then finally, JimmyRants.com is the official website for this show. Go check that out. All the past episodes are there. And if you love what I do here, guys, I don't do any sponsors on this show, and it's by design. I love providing content. I love teaching. I love sharing. I love trying to be a little bit funny and entertain. So if you get value out of this show, then throw me some value back. Go click on that Patreon link, and any donation of any amount would definitely help keep us on the air. All right, guys, that's it for now. Until next time, we'll see you then. All right. Download the video. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. I have to go take my car to the shop. Not anything wrong with it. It needs to have the oil changed, and then a check engine light came on, but I think the car, it's nothing wrong with the engine. It's a newer car. I think it just was one of the like regular updates, and so the way they do it is they show this little engine symbol to go take it in for service for whatever reason. So we're gonna go get that checked out here in about an hour, it looks like. So yeah, gotta scoot to that, and the work never stops. So thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed that study. It was a lot of fun to present that information. I try to always keep my eyes open for this kind of stuff. So thanks for being here. We'll be back again soon. Bye, YouTube.